coming down. I appreciate all your commitment. And I also appreciate that the 3:30 open doors worked out really well too, so we can start at 4. Because we have a fabulous panel here of guest speakers. I'm so excited for them to come and share some of their highlights from their work right now and some of the things that they've been doing throughout the years as well. My name is Cristina Gonzalez Alcala. I am the Community Investment Director at Akron Community Foundation, and I'd like to welcome you to our Education Community Issue session, where we'll be talking about boosting student potential through out-of-school activities. Out-of-school time activities, sorry. Again, our guest speakers here, we have Ellen McWilliams-Woods. She is our out-of-school time network consultant. Kwame Scruggs and Imani Scruggs from Alchemy, Inc. And Diane Kingsbury from Summit Education Initiative. They all have their own presentations, so I'm gonna let them take the microphone and present themselves, introduce themselves to you. That way they can get how much they want out, because their curriculums are all very extensive. So I'm just let them do the highlights of them, all right? So please give a warm welcome, and again, thank you so much for being here.
Good afternoon. Well, I feel like I am among friends and colleagues and mentors and my village here, because I know so many of you in this room. In my former role, 34 years in the Akron Public Schools, the last 13 as the, that's right, Akron Public Schools in the house. And the last 13 of those as the assistant superintendent, working under Dr. Sylvester Small, the most incredible mentors of my life, and Dr. David James. So it's great to be here. So I have been charged in this community to look at our after-school and summer space, this out-of-school time space, to look at how can we take what we're currently doing with an out-of-school time network that we have at Summit Education Initiative. And I love the term that the Akron Community Foundation titled this is to supercharge. How do we supercharge? I think I'm going to steal that forever. How do we supercharge our network to take it to another level that we have been researching and studying across the country and other cities to see what they do to make sure that we're maximizing every hour that students are out of school. So just to get you into this time in your own head, I want you to think for a second about some after-school or summer program you were involved with as a child, if you were. Think about some after-school and summer program. Turn to the person next to you and just name it. You don't have to explain it, you just have to say, one of the programs I was in was Boys and Girl Scouts, or Girl Scouts, or music classes, or whatever. Just name it to the person next to you.
Cheerleader. I don't remember. National Honor Society. Did that count? I think I was in there for that. Yes. Senior year, yeah.
All right, so come back together, and when you think about that program, and I imagine many of you, it's multiple programs that you were able to participate in. Raise your hand if you feel as though that particular program you named or another program you were involved in, did it influence who you are today? Did it have some kind of positive impact on you today? Raise your hand if it did. If it did. If it did. If it had a positive influence on who you are today. Yeah, whenever we're in a room like this with incredible leaders and people serving our community as we are in this room today, it is rare to find anyone that says, yeah, after school and summer, that space had zero influence on my life. Because that space of that after school and summer can be powerful. That's where a lot of the freedom and creativity and passion and interests are formed and brought together and brought out to the youth to see what they want to do in the future and shape them. So much so that when we think about this after school summer space, the research is pretty clear that 3 to 7 time, that is the time where the youth violence and crime can spike with youth and with victims of youth. So the more we can fill that time with activities and interest and passion or paid work or all of this after school and summer programming, that will positively influence that youth violence statistics. That after school and summer also increases graduation rates. Very clear. Long history of research around participation in after school and summer increases graduation rate. We know that kids who drop out, who don't graduate, are 8 times more likely to end up in prison. So the line between this after school and summer programming, increasing graduation, and then reducing the outcomes of prison or the outcomes of less access to the jobs that are available in the community. You all know that. I'm preaching to the choir, right? But most importantly, what oftentimes we don't realize is that children spend 80% of their time in after school and summer hours. Only 20% of children's lives are in school. But when you think about how, as a community, we often think, well, we need to just put more services in the schools, I would argue that we need to just maximize and make sure we are getting every ounce of benefit from that 80% of time that you spend in this after school and summer hours, out of school time. So what some brilliant people in this community a few years ago started doing with Akron Community Foundation, the GAR Foundation, the City of Akron, the Akron Public Schools, the United Way, started having conversations about where do we take our current network and let's start looking at what other cities are doing across the country. And let's start doing some research here that was funded out of the GAR Foundation under the leadership of Kirsten Toth right over here. Let's do some research here to look at our after school and summer programming. What do families know about it? How do they find out about all the after school and summer programs in the city? What gaps do we have? What equity gaps do we have? Where do we have neighborhoods that have no programming? Where do we have neighborhoods that have tons of programming? And let's see what we can do about this. And what we learned is that we have some great programs. Families love the programs that exist when they know about them and when they can access them. But when we asked families, how do you find out about it? They said, we find out from our friends, and we find out about programs through teachers. So then we went and surveyed all the teachers in the Akron Public Schools and said, what do you know about after school and summer programming? And guess what they said? We don't really know that much about after school and summer programming because no one's ever shared all that with us. We know what's in our school, but I don't know anything that's in the neighborhood and the churches and the community. We just don't know. And so right away we started realizing we have some significant gaps. So those same partners asked me in my retirement, this is what retirement looks like, to come and say, what can we do to take our network to another level? And how can we start offering some additional services to all of our after school and summer programs to bring them together to start solving some of the issues and problems and provide opportunities for youth here. So what we have learned from other networks across the country, and there's 75 middle and large size networks, out of school time networks, after school and summer networks across the country. What we've learned is they all focus on looking at needs and neighborhood-based needs, like really diving in and identifying some common goals to establish. Not just individually, but collectively, bringing all of the after-school and summer programs together to say, what goals do we want to accomplish? And then working collaboratively as a network to solve them. So for example, Madison, Wisconsin, that's a city almost identical to us in terms of demographic size. They're a county-wide school system though, not city, so they're county much larger than the Akron Public Schools. They identified that they had major gaps, that there were neighborhoods that had very little after-school programming. So they established the goal that every elementary school in the county, this is like 160 some elementary schools, will have after-school programming every day of the year from 3 to 6 o'clock in every elementary school. Okay, and they set that as a goal, and then 20 some providers across the network stepped up to satisfy that goal. And they also offered it for free for families. So obviously the whole community, the whole city had to come together to make that happen. That's establishing, looking at assessment, common goals, and then the network works together to make it happen. Boston decided that they wanted to greatly expand their summer offerings. And they wanted to do it by taking all of the out-of-school time providers in the city and connecting them with all the arts, culture, enrichment kind of opportunities in the city. They started in a summer with 265 kids 10 years ago. And they said, we want to focus on enrichment, culture, art, having incredible rowing, in the rivers, like all those amazing kind of camp type experiences for all kids, free of charge. Okay, got rid of any of the equity issues. They started with 265 kids 10 years ago in the summertime by connecting cultural institutions to programs. And this past summer, they served 18,000 kids in their summer program. Okay, all summer, kids engaged. That's the power of the network. Okay, that's the power of the network, saying, what is it that we want to address in our city? How do we bring everybody together in the network? How do we collaborate? The other thing that all the networks do is they focus on program quality to make sure that there's training, that there's support, to make sure that everybody's providing great, solid programs. And then they shoot for outcomes and make sure that they're being held accountable. So what we're doing right now across, and when we say out of school time, we're talking about these three kind of functions in this after school summer space. It's the enrichment, which I'm sure most of you, that's what you're thinking about, the arts, the music, the academic programming. There's that, and we have visioning teams of out of school time providers and families saying, here's what we need, and youth saying, here's what we would like to see in this space, here's how we should build this network so that we can establish these goals and work collaboratively together. We also are thinking about sports, because sports have a huge influence. Raise your hand if you were involved in sports any time in your life, right? Think about all the skills you build through sports and the teamwork and the leadership. So we're also looking at how under this network, how do we maximize and make sure we have equity and access to all the rec and sports. And the last area is work-based learning, paid internships, summer youth employment, all of the high school oriented work. We don't have great structures and systems in the city right now, but this network is building them so that we can make sure, in the old days we had thousands of kids working in the summertime. We only have a couple hundred in summer youth employment programs right now. We're building the system to get back to that. So these are all opportunities of design right now. We're designing all these features over 2 years so that we can stand up this supercharged network. At the end of next year, we'll have it all designed, we'll have all the systems built so that we can start operating as this higher level out-of-school time network. The design teams have already identified a draft vision of where we're headed as a team, and I just want to read this to you. This out-of-school time network will galvanize the entire city of Akron to provide innovative opportunities where youth explore their interests and build the skills needed for success in college, career, and life. And these are our core values down below. So that is the supercharged out-of-school time network. And there's lots of opportunities to get involved in design teams, and I'm happy to answer questions once we get to that segment.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We use a lot of quotes with our youth. One of the quotes is, "He who conceals," can't hear me now. Okay. One of the quotes we use is that, "He who conceals his disease cannot expect to be cured." Full disclosure, public settings, I really struggle. Public speaking, I even struggle more. So when Christina asked me to do it, it sounded like a good idea at the time.
I can sell it.
About 4 days later, I'm telling my son, I'm like, what was I thinking about? Seriously. And then what I was thinking about, and this is sincere, and I'm taking one for the team today, because I believe in what they're doing. That's really sincere. So, Kwame Scruggs with Alchemy. This is my favorite son. Imani. So with Alchemy, wow, we're in our 19th year. Alchemy, don't worry about reading that. Alchemy is basically, it's an ancient art of transformation. Where back in the Middle Ages, the alchemists thought they could take a primer material, which is like a base metal that most people thought was of little or no value. But the alchemists thought if they took it and put it through a chemical process like adding fire, water, air, they could extract gold out of it. And then they called that the elixir or the philosopher's stone. So we use that as a metaphor. And working with urban youth, they're the primer material that most people just throw away. But we believe you put them in our vessel, which is mythological story, drumming, journaling, that we could extract the gold out of it. So like I said, we're in our 19th year. We've worked with over 2,000 youth in Akron and Cleveland primarily. But like far as our core youth, when I say core group, that's youth that we've had like since 6th grade till 12th, so for 7 years. So really once you're in Alchemy, you're always in Alchemy. We also started with some youth in 4th grade. So out of those youth, we've had like about 90 of those youth. The program started from a womb, basically. I'll be 65 years old next month. And when I was growing up, everything that I saw, people who looked like me, I just internalized that I was less than due to the color of my skin. So I didn't want youth to feel the same way that I did. So I wanted to, if somebody's telling you every day that you'll never be this, you'll never be that, you'll start to believe it. So if that's true, then the opposite holds true. If you tell somebody they will be this, they can be that, they can do that, then that should hold true. So in Alchemy, it might be tough love, but like I told the youth, they can say whatever they want to say about me, but the one thing they can never question is the love that I have. Okay, so in our groups, it's constant love. The reason why we use mythology, I was at the University of Akron, worked there 5 years, and I was counseling primarily black males. It was like pulling teeth, getting them to talk. I came across this book by Michael Mead. It was a book on mythology. He would tell a myth and give his interpretation of the myth. And after reading that book, I read it 4.5 times, 7 different myths. And what it did, it helped me to understand so much about my life. Because if you tell somebody they're doing something wrong, it's natural to become defensive. But if you tell them through a story, it removes you from that situation, and it allows you to look at the situation objectively. So that's why we use myth. Why myth? That's a few quotes from the youth. I already told them this 15 minutes is like the longest 15 minutes of my life. Okay, so I told them they can have some of these minutes, all right? Okay. So these are just some of the quotes from our youth on why to use myth. I'm gonna skip that too. The importance of collecting data. Wow, I gotta be honest. We started in 2004. I remember Carla, thank you, Carla, so much. Perkins Middle School was our first year, and I was in the cafeteria, and they handed me like a survey, and they said, you got to do this evaluation. And I remember taking the evaluation, this is 2004, and I remember snickering, and I said, you're not going to see the value. I said this to myself. I said, you're not going to see the value of our program until these youth are 25, 26 years old. But we did the evaluations. And it's just the data. Wow, just being able to collect the data. So Knight Foundation, GAR Foundation, Akron Community Foundation, Akron Public Schools, City of Akron, we've been extremely fortunate. Okay, 2012 we were one of 10 programs to win the National Arts and Humanities Youth Program Award. That's the nation's highest honor for after-school and out-of-school programs. 2020 Teaching Artists of America, the Innovation Award. But here again, it's all through myth. So now the clip. One more. Okay.
I have my uncle. I mean, that's kind of my biggest male influence. He sells drugs. Everything he do is wrong. I got the aspect as I can't do shit.
Okay, sorry. This is basically, we had a filmmaker. She was just from out of San Francisco, Karina Epperline. She had heard about our program. She was just going to do a 20-minute documentary. She came, and she was there for one session, Saturday session, 4 hours. And that 20 minutes turned into 3.5 years. She followed 6 of our youth for 3.5 years, and this is taken from the documentary. This is 2 minutes and 12 seconds.
I have my uncle. I mean, that's kind of my biggest male influence. He sells drugs. Everything he do is wrong. I got the aspect as I can't do shit. I'm gonna be a statistic.
Hey, thanks for sharing that. He who conceals his disease cannot expect to be cured. What we attempt to do is recreate the temple of Asclepius. Instead of chanting, we drum. Instead of healing through dreams, we heal through the myth.
That journey to another place, long, long ago.
I've never been able to just be a normal kid growing up. And hearing the white snake myth, I felt like that was me.
You're coming out of your comfort zone, completely new person.
And all of a sudden, the bottom fell out, and they fell into a hole.
Either he had a death wish or he was running an experiment on how fast a black man would turn his car around when angry.
I threatened a kid. I just took it real far a couple times. There's times where I wouldn't say anything.
If you meet any college athlete, ask them just out the blue, if football stopped, what would you do? This ain't right. This ain't, no, come on, man, I got some stuff to say, dog.
They talk about the black male code, and that's still real. My hat's down, I'm turning backwards so they see my face.
Other people's low expectations gives me something to push against, makes me try harder.
You have been prepared to face this monster that you're running into now. I hope you don't think you wasn't supposed to face it.
Alchemy really exposes to the young man in the group our worth, our value in society. We were working with the 7th grade boys the other day and seeing them identify some of the things in the myth. It's just something that so many people don't have.
These myths, I can see it in myself. They're embedded in my thinking.
How can we show people that we are the heroes?
So here again, we get our youth 4th grade or 6th grade through 12th. Through that 7-year period, they'll get through about 21 to 25 myths. A friend of mine told me that the myths help, but a friend of mine told me the myths help, but the relationships hold. Okay, so like, wow, to this day, you know, we're still in touch with quite a few of our youth. The first group, they're like 29, 30 years old. From that group that you saw in the film, 26 and 28 graduated high school on time. 24 of that 26 enrolled in college. To date, 13 have their bachelor's degrees, 5 have master's degrees, 1 has a dual MBA Jewish doctorate. Got a text yesterday from Prescott, who's 30 years old, who wants me to write a reference letter for him to start grad school, so we get ready to have another one with a master's degree.
To wrap us up on, I guess, a like somber but also a very like promising note, as successful as like the program's been, the youth from the program have been, they obviously have a lot of struggles too. So 3 of the youth that you saw in the video, man, it was within a year or 2 of each other, probably 2 or 3 years ago. 3 of them passed. 1 was 18 at the time. One of them was my best friend in high school, and then another one got shot in Akron. So it shows the struggles that our youth deal with on a day-to-day basis. We have youth that right now helping run groups at Bookville and I Promise. And at I Promise, we're running 4th and 7th grade groups. And the 7th grade ones, one of our like best leaders, the 3rd oldest kid in the group, brings so much like energy and passion and just has a aura about him that brings everyone together. He hasn't been the pastor of groups, and we finally talked to one of the administrators there and said that he had like threatened a teacher, would have never guessed in a million years from his demeanor within the group, but threatened a teacher and is now facing expulsion from the school, so we're probably gonna lose him. We had a 4th grade youth that from day 1 was disruptive, and 4th grade's young, but was disruptive, and you could tell was just having trouble focusing, but we wanted to stick with him so much, and we were asking like, please, 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 make sure he comes back to the program, because we could tell how much he could benefit from Alchemy. But after we were there about a week, maybe 2 weeks, and he got expelled. So there's just so many daily struggles that our kids deal with, and then as I'm sure all of you guys know, why groups like OST are so important and why it's important that we meet as a collective like this is we don't have all the answers in silos. We need each other to bounce ideas off of each other, figure out what of our successes are working and what struggles we're having that we can learn from. Because I just turned 30 last Friday, so I would feel being relatively younger, I could relate to a lot of the kids. The kids nowadays in both the like technology generation and post-COVID are so different. So thinking I was like fresh coming out of college with all the answers, being able to relate to these kids, I can't as much as I thought. So I need other like out of school time providers to really like figure out, hey, what are you guys doing that's working well? How can I implement these things in my own program? And then to end us off on a more positive note, fortunately we, at Bookdole, there's someone named Tyler Jones who is the athletic director for Bookdole Middle School who came through Alchemy. Yeah, starting in 6th grade. My dad credits him actually as being kind of like the first one in the program.
Him and Prescott and Aaron Carey.
He now is, through his position at Bookdole, is trying to stop by in groups and just feed some of his own knowledge and experience to the kids, and especially, fortunately, a lot of kids in Alchemy were athletes, and we know that our youth nowadays relate so much with people in like the sporting fields. So he's able to come and talk to the kids, and they're able to see something that they see every day in the school that is also part of Alchemy, and see where the program got him to be. And then there's also a ex-Alchemy youth that we have named Isaiah Wheeler, who's a substitute for all of Akron Public Schools now. He came to the I Promise group the other week and talked to our 4th graders who we've been having a lot of trouble with, because 4th grade is a very young age to talk about a lot of these deeper topics with. So he was able to bring it home, related a little more to them. And then also he played football overseas in Ukraine, was able to share some of those experiences about what it took to reach the top level of the sport or anything that you do. So really just making sure that we stay in contact with the youth. As my dad said, it's the myth is great, but the relationships are the part that is really the core tenet of the program. So making sure that we stay in contact with our youth throughout the duration of the program, of course, but also after, so that we can bring them back home within their own communities to help promote our youth in the future. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's really great to be here with all of you, and it's just such an honor to be part of such a rich panel and such a rich topic. Really excited to share some information with you today. My name is Diane Kingsbury, and I'm the Senior Director of Research and Analytics at Summit Education Initiative. And we are a nonprofit based here in Akron that is really interested in improving personal and regional prosperity through educational attainment. And we do this through data partnerships with our public school systems across the county, as well as engaging with community partners like yourselves. And a portion of our work is also really focused on the out-of-school time space. And I'm really excited to share just a little bit about what we've seen, particularly around mentoring. So I just want to give a little bit of a shout out to our Senior Research Associate, Allison Drinker, who joined our team 3 months ago. And she actually presented on this topic at our last out-of-school time network meeting. So just pleased to share this with you today. So when we think about mentoring, this is an aspect of out-of-school time programming, an aspect of out-of-school time activity that really can impact the lives of youth in a number of positive ways. And this is something that is either an informal or formal relationship with a trusted adult that is built with a mentee. And it's through that a caring, empathetic, long-lasting relationship can be built that role models positive behaviors, that teaches particular skills, that really works with youth to build them up in ways that maybe doesn't necessarily have to occur within the school walls. When we talk about mentoring, we're talking about something from a positive youth development perspective. And this is the idea that rather than viewing a person from a deficit perspective, viewing them as a problem to be fixed, viewing them from, maybe the behaviors they're exhibiting that are negative in some way, it's realizing that there are internal and external factors that can be part of a person's life that can be built up, that are positive influences that need to be maximized in order for that person or that youth to realize their fullest potential. So when we talk about mentoring, we're talking about really nurturing those positive factors, and again, thinking about it less from a deficit perspective and more from a strengths perspective. We see a lot of relationships between positive mentoring relationships and positive outcomes among youth. And that can be academic outcomes, that can be health and well-being, that can be future sense of self. We see a lot of links between having this positive mentoring relationship and some really important benefits. In our work at SEI, we also see from the academic perspective, for students who are participating in out-of-school time activities, in mentoring relationships, these are the youth that have good attendance. These are youth who have fewer discipline issues. There's many positive academic benefits for students who are participating in out-of-school time activities. So there's structures that we can place around mentoring relationships, and really, any one of us could serve as a mentor and a role model for youth. It doesn't necessarily have to be a very formalized, structured environment, or it can be. What we know, though, is that youth who are seeking out mentors or youth that are in a mentoring relationship, these need to be very consistent and close relationships. They need to, have face time with their mentors on a regular basis. It can't just be sort of a swoop in and out kind of situation. It can't be I'm matching you with this person, but then, 2 months later you're seeing someone else. It's really developing that closeness with the focus on identifying those positive youth internal and external factors and really bringing them out within the student. When we look at the relationship between mentoring and educational outcomes, we see that it's those youth that tend to excel academically, and we know that these activities that the mentee is engaging in within their mentor, it can be structured or unstructured. So when we think about within our organizations, when we think about the work that we're doing, if working kind of a mentoring focus within your work is something that you're interested in, there are some structures that we want to place around it, and we're sharing some best practices here. I'm happy to send them over your way if you're interested in learning a little bit more after today's presentation. But it's really important that as mentors, we're offering support to that individual as well, so they know exactly how to work best with the youth that they're serving to maximize the relationship and really see those positive outcomes. So again, just sharing a little bit more, I mean, these are ideally long-term relationships that mentors are building with their mentees. It's a commitment. It's making sure, again, that you're regularly checking in with the youth that you're working with and really taking the time to understand where they're coming from. Again, it's not just viewing a youth from a deficit perspective. It's, again, tapping into what is this youth's background? What are their interests? What culture are they coming from? How can we, work with their skills and abilities and interests and bring that out of them to best serve them, both now and in the future. Just a quick note, we have a little bit of a focus on youth violence prevention, thinking a little bit about the mayor's framework for preventing youth violence within our community, and there is a role that mentoring plays within that space. We've seen examples of mentoring relationships as a deterrent for future youth criminalization and victimization. And it's often, as even with youth who have been involved in the court system previously, there's benefits to developing mentor-mentee relationships with those individuals as well. So it's an opportunity to develop those caring relationships and, again, look at it from a youth development perspective. So just bringing it actually within the mayor's framework for youth violence prevention, there is a mentoring piece to it. In that fifth point there, the community accountability, there is a space for mentoring programs. So again, if this is maybe not something you're currently engaging in, or if it's something that you're interested in or interested in developing within your organizations, there is a place for it. There is a need for it within our community, and we know that the benefits can far last, beyond our current day. A little bit of a note about this developmental asset perspective. This is a sort of a stance that we take when we consider our work. It's a stance that we take when we think about our out-of-school time programming. Again, it's understanding that youth have positive experiences and qualities that they're bringing to the table, and it's drawing that out of them, bringing it to the forefront, and really using that to help chart a youth's future course. So we're realizing that when we're able to not only identify and build up those assets within youth, we're helping them to stay in school, we're helping them to become more civically engaged, we're helping them to have fewer problems with substance abuse, fewer problems with crime and violence. And it's through mentoring relationships that we see this, really shining and developing. I'm going to pause here with our measures and outcomes portion of the slide. This is maybe less important, I think, as it is to really think about that social aspect and really, how do we best serve our youth within our community? How do we best develop these relationships that can help our youth best thrive? If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them. I'm happy to speak with you after the talk today. And the and look forward to collaborating and engaging with you in the future around this topic.
Thank you. Just piggybacking on what Diane said while with mentoring, the theme with myth. Like we tell our youth, if it's a common theme in myth, chances are it's a common theme in life. What you see in the myths is that the hero, they always have some sort of a mentor, some sort of a guide to assist them in their development. So like the quotes we use on mentoring is, water picks up the sediments of the channel in which it travels. A Sufi saying, he who travels without a guide needs 200 years for a 2 days journey. But my favorite, you make your friends your teachers and you mingle the friendly art of conversation with the advantages of instruction. So just, the mentoring here again, with our youth, we stick with them. We stick with them over periods of years because so many of them just have people come in and out of their lives. So we want to just add some consistency.
Thank you so much, Kwame. And thank you to everyone. And another round of applause, please, for them. I was going to wrap it up, but Kwame just kind of, I can't. I mean, I will. I'll try. Because that's what we do, right? We work and we try. When I had the vision for the session here today, and as they presented, I wanted you to see that we have with the structure, right? Out of school time network, we're going to supercharge that. We have the players. We have all of our 70 plus out of school time members, out of school time providers that are working with our students. And then we have strategies, right? There's either the mentoring, there's tutoring, there's just basically overall support for students that we are able to provide. And that's what I wanted you to take away from today, that these things are happening in our community, right? And it's always thanks to philanthropic support. That's a main arm of that. There's also now government support for that. Of course, our public school system is a key player, as well as other institutions, businesses that are also being the ones that are going down there to the out-of-school time networks and out-of-school time partners, providing their time, volunteering, being those mentors. Those who have retired, those who are using their time differently right now, they're also going back and making sure that they're giving back, right? So that notion of us, again, be that charitable, not only with our treasure, but with our time, and as Karen likes to remind me, our ties as well, right? So you're also here because you're going to be taking away something today that you'll be using later. So, one of the things is why do these communication sessions? And I came up with an acronym for you, because at SEI, we're back in the day, we always threw acronyms out there. And it's about adding, so it's add, right? A, D, D, we add. A is, and I already forgot, which is why but this is why we need them, so you can remember them. A is for awareness, right? I want to make sure that you take away something, you know the information, you know what's happening, you're aware of what's going on. The first D is for driving, right? Once you're aware, I need you to drive the community, I need you to drive that decision making within your power and whatever influence you have, you gotta drive those decision making, right? For the last D of making a difference. And so that's what we bring you here at the community sessions, and I appreciate you being here. This is what we want you to take from this. So now that I've shared that, I also want to open up to questions for the panel. I think I'm going to pass the microphone around because we are recording. So anybody that wants to start, I'll give you a mic, or you use your theater voice. So, any questions?
I'll start. I'll use my
Go ahead,
voice.
Theater voice? Go for it.
I'm short and loud. I love the example of Madison, Wisconsin, and how they had that clear goal of having, so many providers in different time periods at the elementary school. And I feel like for this network to be successful, we need to share physical space. Because right now, after years of working with the Hispanic community that was very afraid of getting out of the basement of churches, for good reason, we are now at Patterson Community Center, which has been really, really helpful to us. And we often see other kids kind of there for other activities, and they want to peek in and say, hey, what are you doing? Can we come in? And wouldn't it be great if we had the slot from Saturday from 12 to 4, and then another nonprofit came in and another nonprofit came in? Because that's how you are going to get us out of our silos and collaborate. You like that?
I'll take it back. I'll take it back. Getting my steps into it.
I'll just say very quickly, that's a perfect example of the power of this out-of-school time network, this supercharged out-of-school time network, because we saw a glimpse of it during, we called it strike preparation. When the school system was looking, the Akron Public Schools were on the brink of a strike. This network, within 10 days, in 4 briefing Zoom calls, we galvanized the whole network that we had childcare lined up across the city for families who needed it that Monday morning if we had a strike. But also the thing that was amazing that was happening were people, out-of-school time providers were saying, hey, you could use other providers, you can use my space. I don't use it during the day, so why don't we share during the day and then I'll use it after school. I mean, all of that collaboration in 10 days, it went into this supercharged level, which is great. And I think that's the future of the network as well. So thank you for bringing that up.
A couple of questions, please. Is there going to be a parallel initiative that is going to be encouraging volunteerism in our community? I've seen so many great programs fail because we can't get the mentors or the volunteers to take the time. That 3 to 7, as you know, is a big gap for many people that are currently working. So I'd love to hear any ideas around that. And then Mr. Kwame and the son there, the gentleman, the young gentleman referred to that you thought so much of. Have you followed up with him to make sure he does feel like he's still being supported, that he isn't going to be thrown away because of whatever happened in the school system? Because I see that so often where you just don't take time to do that follow-up. There could be something so traumatic that has happened that he just needs to know that he is being supported.
Yes, thanks for the question. We normally do follow up like that. Speaking of that, yes, they will follow up. We have like a lead facilitator, storyteller, and a liaison, like who runs all our groups. So they do like follow up. We had a student who he was a senior. He was one of the top students at Akron School, scored, test scores, blah blah blah. And just wow, really rough background. He was homeless. We had a couple of our people from Alchemy reach out, literally opened doors, got an apartment. So yes, we do look at after. I'm gonna give a shout out to Irby with 100 Black Men, because people what they're asking. I mean, guys can provide, just services. Thank you.
I'll also mention, just in terms of the mentoring programs, we have incredible, I've heard more about mentoring in my 6 months providing some facilitation around this supercharged network. The 100 Black Men is a perfect example. They have a very strong, structured mentoring program that hits a lot of what Diana was talking about. But lots of folks are saying they're doing mentoring or trying to do mentoring, and there's some that have told me that they can't find enough kids for the number of mentors they have in some cases, because they're small, in the church basement, where they have lots of volunteers, but they don't have enough kids participating. So part of my theory, at least right now, is because of the lack of that communication of being able to connect across the network. Let's have all the mentoring programs come together and really start talking about the services. Let's learn from some of the most incredible programs that are mentoring grounded, and then see where the gaps are in the community. The other thing the network is going to have is one common website where all after school and summer programs, including all mentoring opportunities, are going to be at one site. I mean, just imagine the power of what that's going to do in our community, so that we can also tie adults to that as well, to say, here's the opportunities if you want to volunteer.
I'll give it to Jackie if you don't mind.
Thank you. Thank you. I have a couple questions. So I listened to the statistics about 80% of the time is out of school. looking at the realization that maybe we need to expand the school day And I'm just wondering, is this an opportunity for us to do some lobbying and things like that? Because the reality is, a lot of people are being missed for a variety of reasons, and so I think that would be helpful. So that's question number one. So it sounds like it's the answer to your question. So is that something that this network will be doing?
I think, and we have some former school board members in here. I'm not sure if we have any current ones, but Carla knows that that whole expanding the school year would be a wonderful opportunity. I think we're trying to do it absent compulsory. That's basically what we're trying to do, is expand the school year and fill it with all these rich opportunities. But you do lose some kids in that, especially sometimes the kids you want the most are the ones who don't end up getting connected to these rich opportunities. So that's the gap. So I would certainly go to Columbus with you and advocate for expanded school year. And so would Carla, and so would Ginger. Yeah.
And the second part of it is part of that. The second part of the question is because I've had the opportunity to see kids making decisions based on working or having these enriching activities. And so I know a lot of people say, oh, they need to forego those things. I said, it's easy when you eat every day. Yeah. And so it's like, how can we make these opportunities for these kids who want to participate, but they have to make other decisions because they have to work, they may have to take care of younger siblings, and so a lot of children are missing out on these opportunities and these relationships. Thank you.
Stipends for the youth. Stipends for the youth in your program. Provide stipends. Yeah, so like what's said here stays here. But with Alchemy, and we really, this is really not sustainable, but we received funding from a national foundation, also Cali and Pia Foundation. For years, we had like $13,000 in our budget for stipends. So our youth who came every Saturday for 10 sessions, 4 hours, so 40 hours, they received $400. Okay, so that was like 28 youth. So we had like 13 grand in our budget to give our I don't want to call give, incentivize the youth. Okay, and it was also our way of letting them know that they were of value. Okay, so it's somewhat controversial, but start writing for stipends in your budget.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say, Ellen, I think this is great. We talked about this once before because I believe that the collaboration with all the different organizations, we have an opportunity to serve more kids, provide more resources. That's something the 100 Black Men have been trying to do for years, and I'm happy this is now surfaced. Just a question about the summers, during the summer for our youth. Are we engaging the youth with what they would like to do? And I think that increasing youth employment would definitely help this community. I'm looking at my brother Kwame up here, that me and him go way back, but I remember his father made a huge impact on the city of Akron by putting young people to work. I mean, thousands. I was a part of the staff, so I know what the outcome was for those kids. Instead of being out there running around, they had to go to work. And I know some of those kids, after they got their first check, that was the motivator. So we need to get money to engage our young people in more employment during the summers. And we have to ask the young people what they want. We have to listen to them. And that's what we're going to start moving forward in this community. And you have to mentor for a lifetime.
And actually, I'll pass it back behind you because she has the answer to what your question is.
So we're really excited to be working with this Michelle Collins Connects Decennial. We're really excited to be partnering with the OST Network as well as with Akron Public Schools and really putting together the infrastructure to support students so that we will begin this summer to think about how do we align the partners, so those business partners who are aligned with the pathways that students are enrolled in. And so once they, this summer, we'll be matching them up. So if I'm in a pathway that's around a public service, then being engaged with an employer that's around public service. So we're really excited about this partnership and where it's going to go, with the goal that we will have these opportunities for all junior and senior students.
I planned that. All right, one more question, or if not, we're gonna wrap it up to leave you some time to chat with them.
I have another question.
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to touch base on the mentoring aspect of it. You know, I just want to say through my experience in mentoring youth for quite a long time, you know, the mentoring that we used to do 20 years ago is not working. So if you are in mentoring, you're going to have to change your mentoring program, because you're going to have to come down to where these kids are at to get results. And I honestly believe that before you start the mentoring, you really put pound the concrete, get that trust. When they trust you, you can get them to do anything. I believe that, just from experience.
Yeah, come on.
Hope you get your steps.
I am, thank you.
So I just wanted to give a shout out to Alchemy. I was one of these people, I heard about Alchemy for years, and I went through a program with them in the fall with the city of Akron, and we did a couple sessions, and I told them in the session, I said, I just couldn't understand these drugs and the myths and stuff, but I kid you not, I strongly urge you to see what it's like. I walked away with I was blown away. And it is incredible. You guys do a wonderful job. And, you know, when you see it, it's like, okay, but it's deep. It is really good. And I just want to congratulate you guys on your success and everyone else.
Same to you with Project Grant.
Thank you.
All right, well, we good then. Thank you so very much for coming. I'm gonna